We got our special guest today, Gleen Hart, the Senior Associate Athletic Director for Student Athlete Development. Appreciate you joining us.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
A big part of what you do is the Apex program here at Georgia Southern. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago with Jared. And for those of you watching on Facebook Live, you can get your questions about the Apex program or anything you need from Glenn on Facebook Live or tweet us at GS Sports Network. But this is a program that has been a part for Georgia Southern. It's had a couple of different names over the last few years, but really has taken off this year for Georgia Southern. What's been the biggest growth that you've seen for this program?
Well, basically, the program started off EIT, Eagles in Transition, and basically, I guess the biggest thing to contribute to, I think, would be Jared's arrival to Statesboro. I mean, with his presence and what he has done for the program, the athletic department in a whole, he's just kind of put on steroids, so to speak, if you can say that. He's a firm believer in student development and life after athletics, and so he's really behind his program. That's really helped tremendously. And then also having a two-part role with Tracy Ham, kind of spearheading the actual job search side, it's really helped broaden the horizons. So we're very excited about it.
For having somebody specifically like Tracy that's been here since 1982, so we're coming up on 40 years now.
Yeah.
All that experience, getting to know people in this community, not just Eagle Nation, but Statesboro, Bullitt County, Southeast Georgia. From that standpoint, how beneficial is his presence for a program like this?
It is tremendous. I mean, when I first got here, of course, you can't help but hear the name Tracy Hammond, and then you see his picture and his name on the side of the building, so you know he's an icon here. But he opened so many doors when we go out in the community for different events. As soon as you mention Tracy Hammond, his involvement, people automatically want to get near him because he's very engaging, and his name just kind of brings people gravitate to him. So it's helped the program, and it helps from a credibility standpoint too. I mean, because the student athletes, they know his past, his history, they know what he's done here. So when he speaks, they really listen, and it's good to have him on board as well. So
we're going to talk about the big points for what the Apex program has really been about the last few years. But the thing that I think kind of gets lost in translation a lot, this is something from the time student athletes step on campus, their freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, fifth years even, all the way through their time here at Georgia Southern, Apex affects them in a certain way.
That's correct. It's a full 4-year program from their freshman through their senior year. And a lot of times we talk to students that they think, well, my God, just more classes. How am I going to have time to do all this with my training, class, my studies, weightlifting, film sessions, playing my games? Now you want me to learn about different things. Well, like I said, it's a 4-year program, so basically 2 times a semester they will be involved in programming a 50-minute session that will give them skill sets. So basically by the time through their 4 years here, they will have experienced and when tested on in some capacity those different skills they'll need to be successful in life after sport. And Tracy and I like to say it's kind of like a relay race, so to speak. My portion is giving the skill set, the resume building, the networking, the contacts, how to conduct themselves in an interview, how to speak when they meet people for interviews. Then for that point, I pass them on to Tracy, pass the baton, so to speak, and then Tracy takes them for his internships, job search, and get them out in the community for networking and so forth, job opportunities. So
that's what I think is so cool about this program, and you and I have talked about it. It's kind of molded into what the student athlete is in that certain part of their life. Because when they get here as freshmen and get here as seniors, it's a very different student athlete you're dealing with. As a freshman, you're getting in, trying to transition them into the college world, getting them a resume. Tracy talked about that last Thursday on East Georgia's morning show of you'd be amazed how many people that without a program like this get to a junior and senior and don't even have a resume.
That is true. A lot of times, and I'm very passionate about this program and passionate about what I do because I sat in their same seat. I don't know what it's like to have played in high school and been successful and then go to college and then have opportunity for a scholarship and then have opportunity to go professional, then go pro, but basically not to the level of Tracy by no means, but had the opportunity for Canadian football and, it fell short and just, long story short, the team that I was selected to basically folded. I was there for 2 weeks, team folded. My rights were basically gone. So at that point, what do I do? So luckily I had people in my corner, my parents, people back in my school at Wake Forest University that basically were like, hey, you're going to start playing at some point. So what are you going to do then? So I try to get that same message to student athletes, try to help them realize you're going to start playing at some point. Because as freshmen, they come in, they're wide-eyed, they're concerns about, am I going to play? Does coach like me? Where's my next class? And let's just be honest, a lot of them like my boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it may be. But at some point, you realize you get to be a senior. That last game, that last hurrah, that last basket, you get that senior jersey, you walk off, and now it's the real world. And the real world is just that. It's real. And at that point, no one's telling you, hey, get on the bus for practice. Let's lift weights. The bus will leave at this time. Lunch is at this time. Dinner. You're in the real world. Nobody's telling you, hey, get up and go to work. Make sure you do your job, pay your bills, pay your taxes. You might want to be to work on time, those types of things. So we teach them all that during this program. And it's just amazing, like I said, with Jared and him being here, what he has done to accelerate the program, because it's growing right in front of our eyes. We did two things, new things this year that we're very excited about. We sent 4 student athletes on to a Eagles Worldwide tour. As a matter of fact, we sent 3 to Ireland, and 1's going to Paris, leaving on Wednesday. And basically, it's a very rigorous process. So they don't just sign up and just go write an essay. They have to actually interview in front of senior staff, certain GPA, community service hours. So they've got to meet certain criteria for the actual study abroad. And then at that point, they basically go overseas, have that experience. And the whole point is not just go overseas, but what can you do? How can you come back and be a better person and lead your team in a better aspect? And then another thing that we're very excited about is a career tour. We did one to Atlanta this past spring. You kind of look at it, when I was in school, which had this opportunity where basically we sent 22 student athletes, took them to Atlanta for the weekend, went to a Braves baseball game, had a networking event, had a dinner at Mojave's, basically with Miguel, one of our alumni football. They basically toured the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I can't say Dome. She'll be very sad if I say Dome Stadium. So we're very thankful for their support. But just to see their eyes open up and realize that it's more than just playing a sport. There's a whole world out there that I've got to be experienced. And this program gives them the opportunity. And I think for me personally, I want to help every single one of them. I find myself, and so does Trace, a lot of times, you want all of them to listen, to buy in. But you realize not everybody really wants it. So you get one of those 2 or 3 kids, it changes their lives. They come back and tell you, Mr. Glenn, Mr. Tracy, I appreciate what you did. Hey, I'm now working at so-and-so. That's when we know we're reaching them. So that's the end goal, is to help them transition. So
2 unintended wrinkles that life has thrown at all of us these last couple of years. How do we deal with COVID and now with specifically college athletes?
Yes.
It's NIL. We're almost a year into that now.
Yes.
So from what you're trying to get across, how have those 2 factored in?
Oh, COVID. Where do you start? COVID, I mean, I've never seen anything to touch basically every aspect of life. I mean, it was amazing. And, it hit us hard as well, because the majority of what we do is face-to-face, in-person contact, how to deal with people, how to interact. And now we have to go back to a situation where, you can't meet, you can't do anything, you really can't get together because of a safety aspect. How do you go about still teaching them and not allow a year or 2 years to pass? And, these kids that are juniors, they're now freshmen, are now juniors, and they haven't done anything. So it was all a virtual aspect in which we had virtual classes, Zoom sessions. And like most of the country, you get used to Zooming. It's very easy to sit back at home and prop your feet up and turn on the computer, but you don't get the same contact and the same relationship that you do when you sit down across and talk with somebody. Because, one thing we try to tell them is you're going to have conversations. In this day and time, students, not students, but students enjoying younger generation, it's all about texting. They don't want to have those face-to-face conversations. So this forces you to deal with other people face-to-face, learn how to handle adversity, how to conduct yourself, how to speak. So it's forcing them out of their own comfort zone. And Jared speaks all the time and talks about you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's what we're trying to make them understand, that life's not always going to be easy for you, but it's how you persevere, your grit, how you push through. So
you talked about it with the Atlanta career tour that you guys went on. A lot of Georgia Southern alumni, and there's a lot of people across Eagle Nation that'll tell you there are so many Eagle alumni that are in powerful positions in businesses. Yes. How much of a factor is that? You look at somebody like a Danette Thornton that helped you guys out with the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Miguel Ayub talking about the dinner. Mm-hmm. How important is it for folks that are a part of Eagle Nation being able to contribute to a program like this?
It is huge because, we say all the time in the program, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I take it a step further and say it's who knows you. A lot of times people, I tell students, you can drop all the names you want, say, I know so-and-so, he's director at this particular bank. That's fine and well. But when I reach out to him to ask him about you and he can't say anything positive, you basically hurt your credibility. So we tell them all the time that networking is key. So I think the best thing that Eagle Nation can do is to get involved, those that have businesses, those that have companies, and realize that these student athletes are desiring to get to where you are right now. And there's no better example than to see someone that played football, whatever sport it may be, wearing your same shoes, know what you're going through, had the same, issues and pitfalls that you may be experiencing, but look where they are now. And to hear from their advice and wisdom, and wisdom is the best experience is the best teacher. So I think it's great to have them get involved.
As you're putting this together, and this is a living, breathing thing.
Yes.
This continues to evolve, but
Absolutely.
how much do you think about when you were a student and how much these things could have benefited you, and how does that make you think about other things that you can add, because that's what you would have wanted to know when you were going through what they're going through?
Absolutely, every day, and it changes every day. I think when I first started doing it, the history of the program, when it was EIT, it was basically, it was basically me, so to speak. But like I said, having Tracy, it allows us now to focus in different areas. I'm primarily the skills session. He's primarily the job search. So now I can sit back and say, okay, when I was in school, I wish somebody had told me this. I wish somebody had told me about, the proper way to interview. I was growing up as far as financial management. A lot of your parents and they say, kind of learn on your own. But we actually have big partners that come in, banks, so to speak, that tell you, how to manage your credit, how to keep your credit at a high score, checking account, savings account. And I tell this story because it's to me, it's very funny. We did a financial session just to tell you how the student athletes are. In this day and age, everybody knows about credit cards, debit cards, and, taxes and so forth. You would think they would. We did a session where a young man was basically doing financial literacy, and we were talking about Uncle Sam and FICA, everything as far as his check. And he was so upset because he could not understand where his money was going. He comes in, who's FICA? Why do they keep taking my money? And it's like, okay, so you hear those kinds of, you laugh, but that's the kind of questions that we get. It's just you don't know what you don't know. So we try to help them and try to teach and make them realize that there's a difference between a debit card and a credit card, and they learn those things like that. And Synovus Bank does a tremendous job. Core Credit Union. We got a lot of partners to help us out. Our campus community does a tremendous job as well. Career Services on campus, they're a huge partner. They help us out as far as programming and so forth. But to answer your question further, the fact that I sat in their same seat and I asked and said to myself, hey, when I create programs, how's that going to benefit student athlete now? What would I wish I would have known when I was sitting in their seat? And then the fact that I'm doing this now, I get them from my personal experiences and then from where I want to make sure that they avoid the pitfalls that I may have experienced. So,
you mentioned it earlier how you have to kind of present it in a way where it's not just, I've got another class to go to for these student athletes. How creative do you guys have to be able to have that buy-in that you have this year?
Extremely creative. And that's, once again, we changed the trajectory of the program from the standpoint of, okay, here's a finance class, you need to go to it. Here's a resume class, you go sit and you hear somebody tell you about a resume, 2 pages, and you're like, okay, whatever, I know when I was a freshman, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't want to hear about retirement. I'm trying to play Saturday. Am I going to start and 401k? I need to get a job and I'll call my mom, need some money. So that's where your mind is thinking. So I understand that, but at some point you are going to need it. So we have to be very creative. So we've gone to more of a experiential aspect to where everything we do now is giving them experiences outside of sitting in the classroom, outside of having someone lecture to them. And that's why they did the Atlanta Career Tour. They get to actually sit down and talk and go gather out of their surroundings, go to Atlanta. We're actually going to Savannah in the fall for a career tour, and we're looking at either going to Jacksonville or Atlanta again this coming spring. So, and then we have different people come on campus, interactive sessions to where they're not just being lectured to. They actually participate in small groups. Our financial session and not just, hey, this is a check. This is a check, but how you balance it. They actually play games. We actually give them sample jobs and actual sample budgets. And okay, you pick your job. You got 5 choices. You pick your job. This is your salary. Everybody's got the same bills. You may make 45. You may make 85. You make 150. Okay, but you got the same bills. And what we find is that a lot of them realize, the more you make, of course, the more they want to buy. They want to get a bigger car. But then they realize, okay, yes, I only make $50,000. I can't get that BMW $800 car payment. It's just not gonna work. So, having them give feedback and just hearing it and spitting it back out, be able to apply it to real life applications. So,
having some of the summer sessions we've seen on social media, but also with Focus too. How do those compare to what you try to do during the school year? How do the summer sessions compare?
It's pretty much the same thing. I think the thing that we did differently this year with Tracy and I did was we wanted to see how can we incorporate and make it easier for them. Once again, being a student athlete, how can we make it easier and better utilize their time? Football with their schedule, it's very hard to get them involved in events, and we're looking at kind of expand to other teams as well. Basketball, baseball, and so forth, to do them during the summer. Because they're here on campus, they're in summer school, they got a lot, not necessarily off time, but basically they're going to class and working out. So they utilize that time. So basically we can get their programming done during the summer. It's pretty much the same concept as what they would have learned in the summer. So basically when we get to August, football will have completed their core programming, their core curriculum. So basically they'll have the whole year free, not free from the standpoint they won't do anything. They'll do the community service, they'll do declare your major, things of that nature, but they won't have the core program because they did it all during the summer. And it's actually more focused. We've seen really good results from it because they're all there, they're attentive, they don't have to worry about, I just got off the field lifting weights, I'm working out lifting weights, I'm just in the weight room, got something, I'm tired, I'm trying to listen to somebody. We get them, for 50 minutes, we're in and we're out. So it's really good.
You just brought up Declare Your Major Day, and that's been a big part of this program for really the last couple of years, ever since Jared came to Statesboro. Talk about what Declare Your Major Day and why there's so much of a big impact on it.
Yes, that is one of the staples of our program, Declare Your Major Day. Typically it's done in March, and it's done with all of our sophomores. And the reason for that is because the sophomore year is a very pivotal year as far as, your career and the decision that you make can impact your earnings for the rest of your life. Because at that point, you declare your major. And what we try to do is not necessarily, hey, I'm going to major in whatever, and there's no thought that goes into it. As a matter of fact, the focus career assessment that you mentioned a few minutes ago, all the freshmen took that, and they get to identify their skill sets. What are they good at? Because a lot of times when they choose their careers, it's what they see their parents do, what they feel comfortable doing, all that they see in front of them. So we give them that skill assessment to realize, hey, did you know you're good in math? You thought being an engineer, architect? I never thought about that. So now they realize, okay, these are where your skills are. This is where you can potentially go for a career. And then we help them fine tune the path to get that route. So, it's extremely beneficial. The first year we did it was at the football stand once again because of COVID. We went to the PAC this year, which I think was a much better environment from the standpoint of a little more formal. Got a chance to be a little intimate with the student athletes. They actually go on stage, they declare their name, they tell their name, their major, their sport, and then they also tell what they're going to do with their your all's role is tremendous, and Dan does a tremendous job, emceeing, and I always tell them whenever I get things done, I got to come to him and get it done. So I appreciate him on that. He does a tremendous job, but it just really helps out. And once again, they got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. A lot of them, oh my God, I got to go there and speak, but they realize when they see their peers do it, I can do it too. And you're going to have to talk to somebody at some point. So it's baby steps. And we start as a freshman doing little things of getting you out of your comfort zone, talking to people, pushing you out of your silo. Because when we have events, the teams, you gather with your teams, you kind of huddle who you feel comfortable with. We make you, interact other people, different teams, get involved in other activities, things that you wouldn't normally do. So it's a really good event.
How do people, whether it be alumni, former student athletes, how do they get involved with a program like Apex to be able to impact what you guys are doing now and in the future?
Well, basically, they can just contact myself or Tracy, if they want to get involved. Actually, on the Apex website, on the actual Eagles, gseagles.com homepage, they can go on the Apex website. There's a section where they can go in. They can enter their comments, email, and everybody wants to get involved. It's not necessarily money. A lot of times, time, conversations, experience. We're looking for networking contacts. Really, anytime we can sit a student athlete down in front of a business person who, not necessarily an alumnus, but, it's good to have an alumnus being the experience where they've been there offended for Georgia Southern, but, experience. Anyone that's, we try to pair them with their majors. Job shadowing. That's another huge thing. These business leaders that, you work in a particular company and you don't mind and would love to basically take a student athlete under your wing, let them follow you around for a day or two during the summer to get an idea of what it's like to work in that field. A lot of times they say, hey, I want to be a technician or whatever, whatever it may be, and they go do that job and they realize, I don't think I can see myself doing that all day. So you go to the next step. But that's good to learn that early, as opposed to graduating and you get in that field and you're like, I can't see myself doing this for the rest of my life. So we try to help them realize, what they're good at, what they're passionate about, and go from there. So
really appreciate what you guys do with this Apex program. It's been a lot of fun to see it transition,
Yes.
no pun intended, from EIT to Apex and everything that it keeps growing with. Appreciate what you and Tracy do, and appreciate you joining us tonight.
Absolutely. I appreciate you all. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Glenn.
All right. Thank y'all.
Once again, that's Gleen Hart, the Senior Associate Athletic Director for Student Athlete Development. And when you put him and Tracy Ham in a room together talking to student athletes, you know you're rocking and rolling with something pretty good.
What I love about this program is that this is not an office that a student athlete can go to, pick up a pamphlet, and may or may not have an impact on their college experience and maybe the rest of their lives. This is proactive because they're bringing this to the student athlete, and you make it fun and engaging. So one, it's memorable, and in another way, you've got prospective student athletes that are coming in thinking that they want to do ABC,
Yeah.
but with what Glenn just talked about with these assessment tests, you may find out, well, I really like XYZ a lot more, and it takes you down a road that you may not have thought you were going, but you like it that much more, and it opens up a life of possibilities that you would have never anticipated.
Yeah, one thing, and I got to talk to Tracy a little bit because he came on the morning show over on our flagship station last Thursday to talk about Apex. It's like an Apex week we've got going on here. But the thing that I really like, and Glenn touched on it just a few minutes ago, you start as a freshman, and all of the freshmen are doing the same core curriculum, quote unquote. Sophomores, same deal. Juniors, same deal. Seniors, and it's in the stage of life that they're in.
Yeah.
We talked about it. Coming in as a freshman to when you're about to go into the workforce as a senior, that's a very different human being.
And what impresses me about how they've had to adjust on the fly with COVID, you're getting 5th and 6th year students now.
Yeah.
So this is a program that not only has people involved, but they've had to be even more creative to keep student athletes involved and thinking, okay, we've taught this. Can we also show this? Is this going to be able to build on what we've already shown them? And for them, it's a part of discovery for them as they continue to build this program. Can they implement things that may take them down a path that they weren't anticipating?
I know one thing. They would have had to get creative a couple of years ago when Ryan Frederick was on his, 12th year?
Well, with Todd Bradley Glenn having a
that's true.
possible 8th year, because he could come back in 2023 as well, they may need to, him and Tracy may need to sit down. All right, look, what can we do with this guy? We've literally thrown everything at him. But that was really good from him, and I know him and Tracy have worked a lot of long hours, a lot of days, a lot of weeks, a lot of months to make this not only a successful program, but something that people look forward to.
Yeah, and in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have kind of the flip side of it to talk about Apex being a part of an internship program through Apex with Georgia Southern Sports Properties. Going to have Izzy coming in, a track and field student athlete and cross-country runner. Going to have her coming in the next couple of weeks to talk about the student athlete side of it, of how beneficial is it for the student athletes and what they're able to do.